Hello. Welcome back to Let's Talk Ray Bradbury, the show here on Let's Talk Entertainment, where going back to 2018, I've been attempting to read and review each of the roughly 600 short stories written by the late, great Ray Bradbury. Today we are doing our 268th story, which is the 8th of 25 short stories in his 2002 collection, One More for the Road. Today's story is called The 19th. If you're new to the channel, the way that this works is I do a brief synopsis of the story, and then I sort of wrap up with just a few thoughts and feelings, really just a brief analysis of what it all means to me, what I took away from it, is it a good story? And I mainly do this for my own entertainment, but on occasion I found that some of you are watching these videos, for which I am grateful. All right then, today's story, The 19th. This should be a quick one too, by the way. A man, the narrator, is driving along the road. He's passing a golf course when he notices an older man sort of down in a gully next to the road looking for old golf balls. He pulls over, he wanders down and begins to talk to him. He asks him if he's having any luck. The man shows him a nearly full bucket of balls. The narrator reveals that he knew somebody, his father, who used to do this. And the old man says, "It's good money. Last night I took my wife out to dinner using the money that I collected," and the character sort of says, "I know," but he sort of backtracks, and because it sounded a little bit off, like how should he know this? But Bradbury very quickly pulls the rug out from under the reader, and he basically reveals to us plain out that this is in fact the man's father. The man has Alzheimer's and he's wandered away. But to continue to have a conversation, the narrator reveals his name to the character, and the man seems to be amazed that how this younger man has the same name as I do. And he mentions how he had once had a son, but the son is long gone. He doesn't know where he is. He's gone away, and he misses him, but he wishes he could see him. And then the story itself sort of wanders away, and Bradbury basically sets it up where these two characters agree to have a drink some night at, I'm assuming it's the clubhouse called the 19th hole. Must be a golf term. And that they'll meet again perhaps someday for drinks. This is a surprisingly hard-hitting, tragic little story, for me at least. I don't need to necessarily bring in my personal life into everything that I read, but in this case, both of my grandfathers had dementia in their later days, so something that very hits close to home. And because both of them were at such advanced ages, my family being sort of spread out in years, I have very little memory of them being ever in any sort of coherent state of being for most of my life. And certainly before I became old enough to be able to have conversations, they were too old to have conversations with me. So I found this to be pretty tragic. I remember going to visiting my one grandfather at least, in the nursing home in his later days, near the end of his life, and him sort of not even recognizing myself or my mother, his daughter, and then sort of wondering where his wife, my grandmother, had gone off to. He's saying, it's not like her to wander off like this. I wonder where she could be. And of course, she'd been dead for like 10 years at that point. So it's pretty tragic stuff. The premise, I guess, in the story that Bradbury sort of hints at is the idea that there's Alzheimer's and then there's going away, and they're sort of like the same thing in a way. But basically, your body gets to a point where it goes on, but it doesn't need your memories, sort of leaves your memories behind, but your body keeps on ticking like this, and it's sort of like waiting to die in a way, where the consciousness has already moved on, but the body hasn't. I don't really have a lot more to say about this. I think Bradbury very intentionally reveals the state of the story quite early. He drops a few hints where this guy's the son is accidentally sort of revealing or saying things as if he's speaking to his father, who is his father, but he sort of knows that he doesn't recognize him. So it's a little bit awkward. That's sort of like the means by which he reveals what's going on to us. And then sort of in the ending, they sort of just talk, and they talk about meeting and going to have a drink someday. And the story itself sort of wanders off in the same way that people with dementia have been known to just sort of wander off, like this man apparently did. At the end of the story, the only thing I sort of wonder about, and maybe Bradbury's just being intentionally aloof about this, is that he didn't seem to scoop him up and put him in the car and take him home or anything like that. So I'm wondering if perhaps, and it's not entirely clear, but I'm wondering if perhaps their relationship was never good despite the dementia. I think that'd be an interesting angle as well. But Bradbury doesn't really, not in any way that I could discern, really elaborate on that. And maybe that is by design. Maybe the story being about Alzheimer's, being about dementia. Maybe he doesn't want us to be completely satisfied. He wants us to feel a little bit off kilter, a little bit off base, in the same way that people with the disease and people without the disease, sort of way we interact with one another and sort of feel each other out, and we're just missing pieces of the puzzle. And then it's sort of the way that, you know, a person knowing that the other person has dementia sort of treats them with kid gloves and tries to not upset them, because that is a characteristic of dementia as well, where people get sort of can get what do you call it, bitter, mean, confused, like that as well. So yeah, the 19th, a good little story, a pretty tragic, hard-hitting little story. I quite liked it. I'm not sure how often I will reread this one, because it is quite hard-hitting. Those are the types of stories that are hard to reread. But it will certainly stay with me, at least throughout the rest of the day. Next time, we'll be looking at the story called Beast, which is the 9th of 25 short stories in this collection. That'll be the 269th review overall. I hope that you will subscribe to the channel, browse this growing playlist of old reviews, and then I will see you again in a short period of time. I promise. See you later.